And welcome back to the special edition of Hannity. While Senator Ted Cruz was speaking on the Senate floor for more than 21 hours trying to defund Obamacare, his Republican colleagues in the House were brewing up a story of their own. According to Politico, House GOP leaders are now considering tacking on a one-year delay of the train wreck's individual mandate. So is that a good strategy? Here to talk about that, much more, Utah Senator Mike Lee, Oklahoma Senator James Inhofe. Guys, good to see you. I know you both were, neither one of you got any sleep either. Mike, I know for sure. What, did you get to bed last night?
No, I was on the floor all night with Senator Cruz, and it was a great experience.
Well, as I was dozing into La La Land, I think I saw you at 3 a.m., and I think you were still there at 6 a.m. when I got up. Let me ask you if I am summarizing the tactical difference angle of your fellow Republicans. The tactical strategy difference is you guys have your strategy. Their difference is we're going to get the Democrats on the record voting again for Obamacare, which they're already on the record doing. And then if you put us in power in 2014, in January 2015, we might be able to do something because then we'll have the House and the Senate. But Obama's still president. Am I surmising that right?
Well, yeah, and to the extent that you are, I think there are some holes in that strategy. We can't just assume that we can leave these things in place and all of a sudden be able to roll them back. You see, these are big new entitlement programs, and once they kick in, the historical antecedents for all these things have suggested that they are not going to go away. We have never, ever in our history, Sean, rolled back a new major entitlement program once it's kicked in.
I was corrected by a friend of mine. I think we did in 1988, and it had to do, remember Dan Rostenkowski getting his car windows beaten on by old people?
Yes, that was a relatively minor program within Medicare, and it was still in the beginning implementing phases. Within just a few months, Congress acted. But again, that was not a new major program. It was a sub-program within Medicare. And this is very different. This is a whole new order of magnitude, and it's something that we're not likely to be able to walk away from once it's implemented.
Senator Inhofe, conservatives are pretty angry. It seems like they really wanted all the senators to stand with Ted Cruz, as you did. Brent Bozell actually put out a statement that says, you fund it, you own it. What's your reaction to that?
Well, you know, I think that's right. There are 14 of us that met about 10 weeks ago. I think that's right, Mike. And we decided whatever we had to do, for as long as we had to do it, we're going to do everything we can to stop. Let's keep in mind, Sean, and nobody talks about this, if you read what Harry Reid's statement was, he admits this is a single-payer system that we'll be going to, which is socialized medicine. So we need to do everything we can. Let me just suggest this. I said this on the floor last night and again this morning. It's not really over yet. Because I can remember so well, 19 years ago, I think that was back in your Hannity and Combs days, but 19 years ago, we had Hillary Healthcare. And Hillary Healthcare, they said at this point, it's impossible, we can't win, it's over, and yet we won. In fact, they were so sure that we could not win this thing 19 years ago that the AMA had a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal supporting Hillary Healthcare. But we won. So you just don't give up on something like this.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and I think some things are worth fighting for, and this is so... If Republicans believe that this is really bad for the country, Senator Lee, it seems like this is worth fighting for. The one obstacle that maybe I'm reading into it, but what I perceive to be the big obstacle is fear, and the fear of being blamed for a shutdown if they take the stand. I don't see that same fear on the Democrat side. Is that fair?
I think that's probably a fair characterization. You didn't see that same fear on the Democrats' side when you had then Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi going to her members and with tears in her eyes pleading with them to do this, stating that this was something that she deeply believed in. They did take a lot of risk in passing this law, and that risk actually came forward, and it ended up having some political consequences, and they got what they wanted. Now, in this circumstance, I think if we do the right thing, I think if we fight hard, I think if we stop it, it'll inure to our political benefit and not to our detriment. Yeah. I think we need to believe strongly in these principles, and I think we need to do everything we possibly can to prevent this law from taking effect.
Yeah. Senator Inhofe, let me ask you both of you one last question. Assuming now that they're going to vote for cloture, Harry Reid strips out the defunding provision, sends it back to the House. Let's say the House stands strong. What happens then?
Well, what I think the House would do would be to look at it and see what can we do that is something short of what we are trying to do, and to see what they'll buy onto. And frankly, I just think that, you know, the key would be the next vote we have could keep them from being able to do this on a simple majority. And that's kind of what it's all about. So I just figure if we have an opportunity here, I've got 20 kids and grandkids, we want to stop socialized medicine. It's worth doing everything to the last minute.
Yeah. Mike Lee, I'll give you the last word. What happens if it goes back to the House, having been stripped of the defund provision?
Well, that would be unfortunate, and the one way that we could salvage that moment would, of course, be if we still stood strong as a party. If the House of Representatives at that point stood strong and said, we're still not going to fund Obamacare's implementation, we're going to stand by defunding. We might add different language to it, we might experiment with different numbers or different formulations of the continuing resolution, but we're going to stand steadfastly behind this idea that we want to fund government while defunding Obamacare to protect the American people from socialized medicine.
All right, guys.